Hello everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Nerd Spastics for the week of March 23rd, where we will be discussing this week's news, gaming, film, and television, and everything in between, to be honest. That's why there's so many pauses in that sentence. So, as always, I am Sean.
And I'm Tristan. There's a lot of news to catch you up on this week, and later in the show, we'll have a Q&A with the star of Buffy and Dollhouse, Eliza Dushku.
Yes, Eliza Dushku, big fan, 5x5. All right, well, let's start things off right now, though, with a little toasty video game news. All right, so the first news agenda we have today is the Twitch hack.
Twitch, which has about 100 million monthly viewers. A lot of you out there probably are either streamers or viewers of Twitch, got their system hacked, and as a result, they reset the passwords for every single user. So if you haven't logged on recently, the next time you do, you'll be greeted with a nice little message telling you that they were hacked and you have to come up with a new password. I
find this a little odd because not only can you not play video games safely anymore, you can't watch people play video games safely anymore, apparently.
Yeah, unfortunately, this has become all too common of a news story of constantly seeing major companies getting hacked and users' information stolen and whatnot. But luckily, it seems in this information, not many users' info was exposed, but as a precaution, they're resetting all passwords.
I mean, that's good at least. I'd like to not see it where, everybody's info is taken out. I mean, hopefully that won't be the case later on. But, obviously, if you have a Twitch account, change your passwords, change everything you got. I know I already have, so
I haven't logged in a while, so I still need to change mine the next time I do.
Tristan, we're telling the people to change their passwords. Do it yourself first. God. All right. So the next thing we have, in accordance to Twitch, is the YouTube, which apparently YouTube is starting their new gaming streaming service.
Yes. So there's a rumored story that this year at E3 they will announce their own service to take on Twitch, and last year actually YouTube was in a bid to acquire Twitch, but ended up failing to acquire them, and they are actually bought by Amazon instead for about $30 million less than what their offer was. So instead of kind of laying their cards down and folding, they're going to start their own service to compete with them.
Now, it seems weird to me that YouTube would, offer $30 million more and fail. I mean, obviously, when you're talking about big numbers like, in the billions, $30 million is not a lot. It still is, but why did Amazon win that bid, do you think, of anything?
From everything that I've heard, it came down to a matter of control, and that YouTube wanted to exert more control over the direction of Twitch than Twitch wanted to, while Amazon seems to be taking more of a hands-off approach. So as a result, it seems to work out better for the members of Twitch, is in that they stay in control of their company, and also they now have the financial muscle of Amazon behind them.
So, speaking of, neither of that, to be honest with you. I'm just going to go off directly on a different tangent. Sony had a weekend sale, because I'm excited to talk about it because I know I got a lot of games this weekend.
I picked up a few as well.
Sony had a weekend sale for games all over, I don't know how many it was. It might have been like 50 games, maybe even more.
It was more than that. I think the total number of games was around 100.
100 games under $1. These were games like, I got the couple PS1 classics, Dino Crisis 2, all the Telltale games, Back to the Future, all the Sim and Max, Jurassic Park. There was a lot of great games, all like 80 to 90 cents a piece.
Yeah, it's hard to even call this a sale at that type of a price when you have a $20 game for 80 cents. I don't know if this was more of a publicity thing because they're not making any money on this. The publishers aren't really making any money on this.
Well, I mean, it could be in juncture to maybe they knew something was going on with Microsoft this week with their extra gold games.
Possibly. So this was kind of their alternative.
If anybody doesn't know, Microsoft is actually giving out double gold games this year. I believe for Xbox One, it is.
They're giving 2 games for Xbox One and 4 games for Xbox 360.
So you can get games like Black Flag. What was the Xbox One that you?
Xbox One was Child of Light.
Child of Light, yeah.
Pool FX.
Pool FX, which I think Child of Light's more the grab there. Obviously, Gears of War Judgment was also for the 360 this week. So these are all free games through the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One. Obviously, it's give or take which one you have. If you have both, you're golden. But
yeah, really nice lineup of Xbox 360 games. You mentioned that you're actually going to reinstate gold just for that month.
Oh yeah, just for like Black Flag. I've been wanting to try Black Flag. I don't have it, and then Judgment is actually one of the only Gears of War games I haven't played. So I'm probably invite my buddy Jason down and play it. He beat all the other ones with me. So.
So that makes a great deal for you, especially on the 360, given that you can just sign up for gold for 1 month, get all those, and play them forever, while the new rules on Xbox One is you have to have a gold account in order to play any of the games with gold.
Exactly, but it seems like you're getting a good deal soon with Xbox One.
Yeah, so this was another news story that came out this week, and this is one of those we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. But so there's been a lot of headlines made in this current generation between Xbox One and PS4 over resolutions. So we've all heard it, we've all seen it. Every time a third-party game comes out, there's the inevitable comparison. Oh, PS4 is running at 1080 and Xbox is only running at 900p.
I've said that many times, Tristan, many times.
Yeah, but this. In an interview with Stardust Studios, who is working on one of the first games they'll take advantage of DirectX 12, which is what will be coming to Xbox One in the fall when Xbox One gets upgraded to Windows 10. They're saying that DirectX 12 should remedy the resolution issues that Xbox One has been having. And this is going to be remedied because their ESRAM is going to receive a new API, which should optimize the way that RAM is used and enable more games to run at full 1080.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal because a lot of people, especially myself, the reason we weren't too keen on Xbox One is because of the resolution problem.
Yeah, and that was kind of the debate too. I ended up picking up an Xbox One, but when I was looking at them, it's like, well, the PS4 does seem to be a little bit more powerful, run a little bit smoother, higher resolution. But in the end, for me, it ended up being the interface and the software that I liked better on Xbox One and decided to go that route. But now seeing this, the fact that hopefully future third-party games with this new API will run at the same resolution on both, ideally, that's fantastic.
I will be completely honest, Tristan. I'm still not sold on Xbox One, more because I am a Naughty Dog fan, and Last of Us 2 is a game I will be expecting at some point, and I don't know if I could live without it with how much I love the first one.
This is true, and I'm a big fan of the Uncharted series, so Uncharted 4 looks like that should be amazing, but that was also just delayed.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, at this point, we don't know when they're going to come, but, you know...
But for you, for someone who hasn't picked a next-gen console yet, does this influence your decision somewhat?
It does.
Third-party games are now running equally?
It does. That was my big concern originally, was when, the Xbox One, like, only their games were running at that, optimal speed. But now that if third parties come into the mix, it's you're more on an equal level of ground. Now you're only talking about game titles, like I just said. So... And hopefully, by the time, I'm going to be honest, it's probably going to be a while since we've seen like Last of Us 2 from Naughty Dog. Naughty Dog seems to take their time when they're doing titles, which is for the best.
Yeah, they take their sweet time making a game, but I'd much rather have them do that as opposed to the Call of Duty method, which is you pump out a game every single fall.
I haven't played Call of Duty in probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think the last one I played was 4.
Yeah, something like that. I'd rather a studio take their time than whip out something very quick.
Especially last year when we saw a lot of games launch and have massive problems at launch to the point that they were unplayable.
Yeah. So we have our toasty news segment of the day. I know this is the entirely toasty gaming news, but this is the one we think is the biggest for us, at least for us and a lot of people listening. So this will be the toasty segment of the day. Toasty! And this is... Black Rock Mountain goes live next Thursday, April 2nd for Hearthstone.
I didn't think it would be going live that soon. So this will be the first Wing of 5 that opens up on April 2nd. But should be a lot of new fun cards to come out.
Yeah, they definitely been releasing a couple others. I feel like we've been talking about Hearthstone in like every episode, but just because like it's getting so close. I'm sure, you know, and a lot of you might know the big streamers, Amaz, Firebat, you know, they're going to be definitely doing a lot of talking on this subject and a lot of, you know, streaming of the videos. You know, I'm sure Trump will do a huge the learn how to thing. So, I mean, this is big news. If you haven't pre-ordered it, you know, you can pre-order it or you can wait and buy it with gold.
Yeah, because this is going to change the way the game is played again. And the crazy thing is, this game is only a year old, and this is already the third expansion to it. And each expansion has completely changed strategies for the game.
Yeah, no, it really has. And that's kind of like the same thing with Magic the Gathering, and I think they're going off that same basis is like, you know, every expansion and every cards you can play changes the way you play the game, which is a good thing, especially with nerfing cards as well, which I do expect Dr. Boom to fall into that region pretty soon.
Yeah, Dr. Boom is really overpowered.
If anybody doesn't know what Dr. Boom is, it's a 7 mana cost, 7/7 card that gives 2 1/1s with death rattles that deal 1 to 4 damage. It's a pretty powerful card for the set, so yeah.
So I wonder if they will keep up this pace of expansion, if they're going to basically do 2 expansions a year, a new deck of cards, and a single-player expansion, or because at some point the number of cards they're going to have is going to be overwhelming.
No, it really is. But I don't see any reason for them to slow down. They're making good money off this.
Oh, they're making a fortune off of this.
Exactly. So the next piece of news actually falls into the realm of Sony a little bit that we were just talking about a little earlier is Dead Rising Watchtower. They're making a film based on the video game series Dead Rising, and it's being made by Legendary Pictures, and it's set in the zombie outbreak when a government vaccine failed to stop the infection. Just like it's basically taking place during Dead Rising 2 almost, around that area. But the big surprising thing is that it's going to be released on Sony's free streaming service, Crackle, the 27th. So, which is today, surprisingly or not. If you guys didn't get the message, we were supposed to record yesterday, but there was a little scheduling conflict. So that is today. It's not like I didn't know when it was.
Yeah, surprising because I'm not sure when the first trailer for this came out, but it doesn't seem there's been a lot of ramp-up time space before they've released it. And very strange that they decided to release it for free on Crackle.
Yeah, it's to put a movie like this with, you know, in the budget looks pretty good. If you guys haven't seen it, we'll throw the trailer up on our Facebook page. It definitely seems like a bigger budget. It's definitely a B movie. But it definitely seems like a bigger budget than you'd get for just streaming it onto a free service like Crackle.
It looks like a high-end B movie.
Exactly. I don't know really what I could compare this to. But
I would say quality-wise, probably below Cabin in the Woods, but above your typical kind of horror flick.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah. It definitely it looks intriguing enough where, I mean, it's a free thing on Crackle. I'll watch it. I mean,
yeah, might as well check it out. It's free. It's there, and it has some notable actors in it.
Yeah. And if you have a 360, Xbox One, whatever, you can all get Crackle for free.
I believe Apple TV as well.
Yep. So Crackle is offered free, so you can download it and watch this whenever you want.
So this seems like it might be Sony making a bigger move into the digital space because
I think they want to get more press out for Crackle. It doesn't seem like they're getting enough right now with that service.
Well, because the series Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee has been exclusive to Crackle after their first season. They were picked up by Crackle and sponsored by Acura there.
Yeah, that is very true.
So it seems like they're making a bigger play for more unique content on there.
Yeah. All right, so that does it for Toasty Video Game News. Now we're moving on to our segment called Screen to Screen. This is about everything from web series to television to film. So we're going to start things off with the trailer that we just found out about that I don't know if anybody else knows about, but we felt we had to talk about this because it was so surprising.
Also coming out very soon, May 8th.
Exactly. This
Maggie.
is Maggie, the trailer Maggie. Now,
Arnold's back.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in a zombie film. This is about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his daughter, who is... she plays the little girl on Little Miss Sunshine and in Zombieland.
Yes.
Yes.
So she plays the younger sister in Zombieland.
Yep, and Little Miss. Okay. So she basically is infected with the zombie virus, and she's turning into a zombie, and he's basically told he has to kill her, and blah, 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 but he refuses to do it, and he sticks with her the whole time while she's going through her transformation into a zombie. And the trailer looks pretty damn good, I'm going to say.
I was very surprised, and it's a different type of a role for Arnold. You know, he's your typical action hero, but this is more of a independent indie film, and he's playing a role that's not going to be a straight action flick.
Yeah, I was a little blown away by like just the performance in the trailer at all. I mean,
it actually looks surprisingly good.
Yeah, I mean, he's the typical dad who just doesn't want to like do anything to hurt his daughter and doesn't want anybody else to hurt his daughter, and he knows what's happening, but he's not letting it go.
So he's going to have two opposite ends of the spectrum for films this year between this and Terminator.
Yeah, it really is. You go from like high budget Terminator to this. It seems like this he took and he did a very good job like deciding between independent and big budget, and this one definitely seems like this might be actually the better movie.
It definitely, I think, quality-wise is going to be the better film.
Yeah.
Terminator, not really high hopes for.
You got a Terminator with the 11th Doctor, Mr. Matt Smith, all right?
This is true, but it's still Terminator.
The Doctor and the Terminator together, come on. Speaking of Doctor Who, yesterday marked the 10-year anniversary of Doctor Who's return to TV.
Yay!
Doctor Who! So that is awesome news. I know I watched some Doctor Who last night in preparation for the 10-year anniversary.
It's surprising it's been 10 years already since Doctor Who has come back.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I will say I am a horrible nerd and did not watch it as soon as it came back. I discovered it on Netflix with David Tennant, like some other people. I did start watching from Matt Smith on TV, but it definitely is a great show. And, I mean, even the classics, to be honest, are really great. And just seeing how it's developed since it's come back and the fan base it's built up again is just phenomenal.
I'm looking forward to the new series coming out in August.
Yeah, it should be good. So far, Peter Capaldi, I like him. Obviously, I will admit he's not my favorite Doctor, but...
No, he's not my favorite. He took a little while for me to warm up to, but more of the second half of the season, I really started to get into him.
Yep, and that should be coming in autumn of 2015.
And in other movie news this week, there is going to be a Super Troopers 2 movie.
Did we really need that?
I am a big fan of Super Troopers, but I really don't know if it's in need of a sequel. The strange thing, though, is how they're launching this and funding this, and they put it up on Indiegogo.
It's a lot. It seems like a lot of things are either getting Kickstarted or Indiegogos, like nowadays, especially with just like Con Man and everything else recently, too.
Yeah, and a series like Con Man, I'm all for, because it's going to be a web series only and whatnot. But with this, it will be released in theaters, so you are paying to finance a film that will make money in theaters, but then you won't see any return from that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't see them needing to do an Indiegogo for Super Troopers 2. I think this is just a pull to try to make it with less money almost.
So, or just also a way to get some publicity for it as well, because $2 million for a movie nowadays is not a big budget. And on their Indiegogo page, they were saying if they don't hit 2 million, there won't be a film. But they're almost at 3 million, so there's definitely going to be a Super Troopers 2 film. And it still has a good amount of time left, so we'll see what it actually hits for its final number.
And I'm going to be honest with you, I think they did it after seeing the success of Con Man.
That is very possible.
I mean, it came right after and on the same website.
Yeah, but, I mean, in order to throw something like this together, like they say, they already have a script and everything, so...
Well, I definitely think they had other stuff together, but I think this was another thing they could do after, throw it all together when they saw the success of that. Oh, let's throw it on here, see how well it does.
Yeah, as a way to help finance it.
Exactly.
So I don't know how I feel about films like this that will have a distribution in theaters using, basically fans' funds in order to make the thing.
Yeah, it
kind of leaves just a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I don't mind web series, but however, with major motion pictures, I do kind of don't approve of it. So we did have some big movie news as well for X-Men Apocalypse. Apparently, director Bryan Singer revealed via Instagram, so social media, again, that he has casted Jubilee for X-Men Apocalypse for the 2015 film. Now, some of you may know her from the comics, but I believe most of you know her from the 1990s Fox animated series.
That's where I know her from. And we're seeing a pattern here of characters and outfits and whatnot released via social media. The first images we saw of Ben Affleck in the Batman costume was released on social media. Early images of Star Wars on social media. So this is kind of getting to be a trend in order to hype up a film.
It definitely is. And so he did cast Lana Condor as Jubilee. And if most of you don't know what Jubilee's X-Men powers are, I mean, that's okay. I would expect you not to know too. She's like basically lights fireworks out of her hands.
Yeah, in terms of mutants, I want to see, she's an important character, but not an exciting character at all, especially in terms of her abilities.
She is the character that usually gets in trouble, especially in the animated series.
Yeah, she's a little bit of a joke in the series.
Jubilee's the kind of character you want on when the X-Men finish defeating someone and they need a good fireworks celebration.
Yeah, she's the comic relief a little bit. So I'm wondering if they're going to change her powers in any way or tweak her for the film, or if they'll kind of stay true.
I don't know. I just want to see that big yellow trench coat and goggles. All right, next we have The Watch List, which is the shows we're actually checking out right now. So the first one we have to talk about is one we talk about every week, which is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It just keeps getting better and better.
Better and better. We had to return of some old characters, such as Agent Ward and Agent 33.
Who we haven't seen either of them since the mid-season finale in Puerto Rico.
Exactly. And we had an appearance by a new character, played by Mr. General Adama himself, Edward James Olmos.
Such a fantastic actor. I will watch anything he's in. Just a really great voice.
He is great. Like seeing him appear, I was like, it's General Adama coming to help Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But no, it's the opposite probably. But
So now this sets up, it's time for some wild speculation. Do you think Coulson will be done after the season and Edward James Olmos will take his place in that role as like the S.H.I.E.L.D. leader? Or you think he'll stick around? Or he'll just be kind of on for a couple episodes and then gone, and Coulson will still be the main leader of the group?
I believe Coulson will still be there. I think this is just because originally they did state that they were like, they thought Nick Fury was dead. So they have no idea. They don't know he's alive. They don't know anything.
This is true.
They just think that, it's Coulson, he's running into the ground, blah, blah, blah. No, this is just, I think it's going to be a failed attempt, and I hope that the traitors among them get what's coming.
Yeah, at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing Edward James Olmos as a consistent character on the series.
I think we will see him for the rest of the season. I don't think he'll be a consistent character for the rest afterwards.
I don't think so either. I think this is just going to kind of be a plot arc, and then it's going to continue on with kind of the same team, maybe minus a couple characters, depending on how everything shakes out.
Yeah. So next we have, I've actually been watching the Dusk Till Dawn series on Netflix. This was released a little while ago, but I just got into it on Netflix as one season. It is very, very good. It is based on the Robert Rodriguez film Dusk Till Dawn with the same name. And it's basically a retelling of the film in a 10-episode arc.
But it's more of a prequel, or?
No, it's actually the entire film just redone as a television show and with added stuff and changed a little bit. And it is much better. And, I mean, let's be honest. Quentin Tarantino, great director, great writer, not a great actor.
His cameos are always the worst part of his films.
It really is. And seeing this new character, this new guy who took over for the role that he had in Dusk Till Dawn did a fantastic job. He was just he held that character beautifully. And like the other character who took over a part for George Clooney's part, which is very hard when you're trying to replace George Clooney. He did an awesome job too. He definitely got the character very spot on and just kept going with it. It's definitely it does more for the film. It expands on what the film is trying to do. And seeing it as a television series definitely made me excited to see what's coming next for these characters.
I find it strange that they decide to retell the same story as opposed to doing a different story in the same universe, because Fargo came out not too long ago. That was very well received. It took place in the same world, but with different characters and whatnot.
Yeah, I at first I thought that as well, but then after like rewatching the film, to be honest, and then rewatching the series is definitely much better. in general, I think this is what Robert Rodriguez wanted as well. He even said after the first scene is like, I like the television series more than the movie I made. And I think that definitely speaks to how high them, and to the point where he didn't have very much involvement in the first season. He was a producer. He, did a little bit of writing, whatever. He is now directing every episode for season 2. I mean,
which that's really promising that he's going to direct the entire season 2 and is going to be so closely involved with it.
Not only that, Danny Trejo is returning for season 2. So this is huge. Danny Trejo was the bartender in the original Dusk Till Dawn as the vampire. So we'll see what kind of character he plays in this. Maybe we might have him as Machete, which would be kind of cool.
That would be really neat. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of really good narrative-based stories made for TV now, because you can do a lot bigger, more complex story over 10 hours of content versus trying to cram everything into a 2-hour self-contained segment.
Oh, exactly. So this Dusk Till Dawn, definitely a series you should check out.
Yeah, I'll have to add it to my watch list. So my show I've been keeping up mostly has been Justified. It is in its 6th and final season, and just an absolute fantastic show. So there's probably been a couple low episodes throughout its run, but overall just fantastic. Really unique group of characters, very good actors, and great character relationships.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of Justified. It's something I've been thinking about checking out. It's on FX, correct?
Yes.
It seems like this was the show. I know Sean Ryan, who was part of the Shield on FX, had a part in it as well, and there's a lot of crossover with actors from the Shield. So it definitely is. Shield is definitely something I enjoyed as well. So it's something.
So I'm not familiar with Shield at all. I've heard fantastic things about it. That's another thing I have to watch at some point. So I can't really relate to that. But great group of actors, really good storyline, just a really unique setting. It takes place in modern day, but it's in kind of backwoods Kentucky, so it does not feel like it's in modern day at all.
Yeah, and that's definitely like a good mix to do. I mean, it's not really historical and it's not modern day. It's almost like you're trying to mix the two.
Speaking of Fox, they have ordered 6 new episodes of The X-Files with the original cast.
Mulder and Scully
are back.
Yes, it will be good to see that again. Apparently, Netflix popularity from the original series was a part to thank for the revival, which I can understand because that's where I watched most of them. I did watch some of them as well on Fox when it was airing, and the movies. I mean, it's been a while. 2008 was the last movie that came out, so it's definitely it's cool. It'll be cool to see a revival. This was a huge show for Fox back in the 90s.
Yeah, it ran for 9 seasons, and it's really amazing that we live in a day and age now where, because a show that's been dead and gone for a while is popular on a streaming service, that they're willing to bring back the original actors and make brand new episodes.
You hear that, Joss Whedon? Do you hear that?
There's still hope for Firefly yet.
Hope. That's all we can hope for. So apparently production for the X-Files series events, it's only going to be 6 episodes, which is fine. I wouldn't actually want to see more than that. I'd want it to be, focus themselves on really great episodes instead of trying to put out a lot.
Yeah, I'd rather them focus on kind of a one little self-contained story, have a nice little 6-episode arc, and then tie it up.
So production will begin this summer, and then apparently they're going to keep everything under wraps and reveal later about what's going on and when we're actually going to see this. So my guess would be about 2016, 2017, my guess.
Probably fall of 2016 would be my guess.
So we will keep high hopes for that.
Yeah, I'm hoping it will be well done and high quality, and it'll be fun to kind of see Mulder and Scully back together again.
So next up, we have the Q&A with Miss Eliza Dushku from Buffy and Dollhouse. I myself am a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, as well as Dollhouse, maybe more Buffy. But we're going to be playing highlights from her appearance here at Boston University, and we'll probably put the rest of it up later on for you guys at some point. But for now, we'll just dive right into the best of, and hopefully you guys enjoy.
All right, so first up, we have her response to Fox's reaction to the original pilot of Dollhouse, as well as the input she had on the new pilot they ordered of the show.
Pitched it to the powers that be there, and they were like, this is Joss Whedon, we're going to give you full, it's not like an inexperienced showrunner or writer, we're going to give you full creative freedom, we're going to back you, whatever you want to do. He was like, this is great, this will be a first, and so we wrote and he shot the show and then brought it back to them, and they were like, you're going to be on right after 24. The Kiefer Sutherland show. And then it was like they panicked at the last minute and realized we were making a show about human trafficking. And they were like, this is really controversial and sexual, and we're nervous. And so they moved us to a Friday time slot, made us change the entire pilot, and this is what we had. It was still, all in all, I feel like we were really proud of the 2 seasons that we got to make, but that is one of the things about the show business is there are always a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There are always a lot of big, higher powers than you, and they can change your creative vision, and you sort of have to adapt and not go nuts. We shot the complete pilot. Spent millions of dollars. The storyline was similar. But they really wanted less nuance. They really wanted a lot of exposition. They wanted him to spell it out in places where, he was disappointed because he felt like the audience was smarter and didn't need to kind of be spoon-fed everything. But they also really wanted him to sort of tone down, like I mentioned, this sense that the Dollhouse was also part of a human trafficking or a human trafficking organization. They were like, no, the Dollhouse was just supposed to be really cool and like send out, actives for engagements that were fun and crazy, not completely be, stripping their power and their will.
All right, so next up we have the question of which she liked actually doing better, which is film or TV to work in, and she goes into a lot of detail actually about Buffy and some other things in here, so let's take a listen.
The crazy thing is that they are both and have both changed so much. Even in the last 15 years that I have been a part of them, when I was first on Buffy was the first TV show I did. I had done maybe 6 or 7 movies before I went on to the show, and it's a really tricky place, TV, because like I was saying before, there are so many cooks in the kitchen. If you have an idea for a TV show and you want to go and pitch it at a network, you pitch the show, and the time and the tooling and the tinkering between what your initial idea is and what that show becomes. There are countless executives, there are countless rewrites, and the process can be so, for many, kind of soul-crushing and creativity killing. But I think that also depends on the strength of the showrunner. And when you have sort of like a Joss, or you have a Vince Gilligan from Breaking Bad, I think that there are ways that, some people just fold. I've also worked and seen showrunners that just sort of fold to the process, and the material and the show doesn't end up being very good. You just feel like the show isn't very smart, and it doesn't have its own voice, but it's extremely hard to keep your voice when, they're telling you, like, you might have a really cool line, and they're like, well, we don't get it, so we need to fix it. So let's cut it up and say it like this, or maybe have him say it, or maybe and it's just, there's so much tooling with TV. I think on the same card, like with movies, with big budget movies, it's a lot the same. It's similar. So you have to kind of be ready. I think if you can really fight for your ideas and you can really get your message across and you have the stamina to sort of continue to fight for why those words need to be said the way that they're said, then you can get your voice into the project. This sounds like a really discouraging conversation, but I will say, after a lot of years, it is a really tough business. It is really, there are so many different, I think, elements to it that people don't necessarily think of when they think of like, oh, I'll write an awesome script. But we're also in a time where there are great independent projects, and if you don't need the big guy, if you don't need the big 800-pound gorilla, the studio or the network, and you can shoot your movie for $1 million, and you want to shoot it word for word how you want it, shoot it how you want it, that's, I think, how we see a lot of these great projects that come out, or on the internet. People are making their own web series. And once you get the viewers, and you get the eyes, and you get the popularity going, then you can sell that, and you can have more power. If it's to go to a network or a bigger studio. But I don't know which I prefer. I think, I mean, I've done a few shows and I've been really lucky. I've done some movies that I felt like were a little bit more of a richer experience for me because of that, because of being able to sort of be a little more, just a little more free, and that the director or the writer could get their vision in there. But I also worked with Joss on most of my TV shows, and I was really lucky in that way that I never had to do anything too compromising for the sake of the studio or the big ups.
And next we have, what did you bring to Faith in Buffy that influenced the plot? And what did Josh see in you that he respected?
I brought my insane 17-year-old self at the time. I literally had just graduated from high school. I was getting ready to go to school, but I was in a phase, as, again, my mother could nod her head to or want to strangle me, choke me out for. I was not that far from that character at the time. I mean, I was really in that kind of rebellious, like dyed my hair black and wore too much makeup and wore leather pants and tried to fight everyone all the time. But I was having a lot of fun, and it was that weird thing of like I was an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. So I was like super up for the party, up for the game. I was wanting to get into everything, and yet deep down I had this kind of like raw vulnerability that was always like right under the surface. And I think, when I first read the character of Faith, she was like a trailer park slayer. She was not from Boston. She was, I don't remember the exact beginnings of Faith, but I was supposed to be there for 3 episodes, and after a couple episodes, they asked me to stay for 7 episodes, and I think just at lunch on set, I would just blow Joss's mind with my ridiculousness and all of those things that I was going through. And I think that it just sort of just morphed and went on and on. And art really imitated life, and life imitated art. I swear to you, there were times where, especially as we got going, like I would tell Joss a story at lunch, and after lunch they would come and knock on my door with like salmon pages when they, you get the script and it's a white script, and then every time they make a change, they give you a different color page with the new material on it. So they would come to my, it's like mint or salmon or all these different cool, weird colors that they make fancy. They'd be like, oh, we have salmon pages, and they're adding a scene, in the mayor's office with you and the mayor, and we're shooting it in an hour. And I would read the scene, and I'd be like, wait a minute, and it would be really similar to a story I had just told Jocelyn. So many characters are bad or they're good. You're the girl next door or you're the evil whore. And I think, really, there's Joss's whole thing, I think, is that there's a gray area. There's something in between, and even though my character was doing awful things, there was an intense amount of humanity in her, and people really actually started rooting for her, and that blew my mind. There were episodes in Buffy where I was torturing somebody with Pam cooking spray and a lighter, and then being like, oh, kill me, and they'd be like, no, we want to hug you and love you to death, and it was like these huge opposite extremes, but people like hated her, but they loved her, and I think it's like what we find in ourselves. We can think that we can carry so much shame and so much. It's really deep stuff. That it's how we operate. I think that we're not one thing or the other. We do horrible things, and it doesn't mean that we're horrible people. I loved Faith's arc on Buffy, which was she came in as this wild bad girl, and we had the Bad Girls episode where she's looking like she's having all the fun, and then she kills someone, and then she goes off the deep end a little bit, and then Angel, the vampire, sort of takes her under his wing and says, like, no, there are going to be consequences for your actions. And then there was the amends episode, and then there was the redemption. She got sent in jail. It was this whole arc of kind of humanity. I feel like a really beautiful thing, and people related to it.
So the next question is basically kind of the same thing, but what did she bring to Echo in Dollhouse that influenced the plot?
Well, Echo was, was my character's state when she's wiped, supposed to be her state when she's wiped clean and when she's void of any actual personality. And as the show goes on, and I'm not sure, maybe in the pilot you saw a little clip of Caroline. So Caroline was the woman, the girl that she was, and I think there were parts of Caroline that I influenced too, and for Joss. Like I remember the scene. Is it the video that they show of Caroline where she's like, I want to fly around the world and like do all these things and help people? And is that too much to ask? I have a little bit of that in me, thanks to my mother, and so I think that there were times where I influenced that, and then there were times that, he just wanted to see me in a dominatrix outfit. But it's a fluid process, I think, and I noticed that oftentimes in shows, and nobody really knew that David Boreanaz was such a big goober, like such a goof. He was so serious as Angel, and then you watch him today. He's on the show Bones, and like the guy is just completely zany, right? And I think that like he tried to work that in with David when he was playing Angel and in the spin-off show Angel. So you saw a little bit of it, but ultimately, he sort of broke out of the box with that on Bones, and that is really sort of who he is. So I think that actors influence their characters, either consciously or subconsciously for the writers.
And now we have her reaction to Fox canceling Dollhouse.
I was bummed, but I also, I understand that it's a business, and I feel like they didn't, that's totally their prerogative, right? It's their money. They built the Dollhouse. They got behind the show. They sort of moved us. They call Friday night the death time slot. They actually call it like the graveyard death time slot. So when we really didn't have that great of a platform to start on, that was the first sort of sign. And then, the numbers weren't. One thing that was interesting though was that we were the first show that like broke all the DVR records, but when we got into our second season, because we were the first show where that actually counted, and that was actually a monetizable thing for the studio, that even though people weren't watching it on Friday nights because they were out doing things and had lives, I do nothing on Friday nights too sometimes, or I come here. But that sort of saved us and allowed us to get a second season, because they could prove and quantify that we had people that wanted to see the show, maybe just not when it was on. But we didn't think we were going to get a second season going into the second season. That was a factor that played a role. But as we went on, it was a very expensive show to make, and there were a lot of actors in the show, and we were actually pretty happy that they let us finish the second season. I did another show called True Calling, where they literally, and on most shows it's this way, they cancel you and they pull the plug, and it's like, don't show up to work tomorrow. Sorry, game over. They just leave you hanging. And with Dollhouse, it was actually quite generous of Fox to let us wrap it up and kind of come full circle and have a complete season.
Some good stuff. The next one we have is what was her favorite thing to work on based on what she's done in television and film?
I don't know. Everyone has their different taste, right? I loved Buffy. I never watched Buffy before I was on it. I actually haven't probably seen all the episodes of Buffy. For me, I was not into the sci-fi genre when I first started on that show. I have done some films. I Bring It On was an example of a film where like there was no studio presence on that movie because they thought it was going to be a straight to DVD movie, and they literally left us alone. And there was literally maybe like one set visit from a Universal executive done in San Diego, but they completely let that director just free fly. And we just had this crazy time, and then it was like an amazing hit when it, we made almost $100 million, and it was like, I got cast in another movie at the time, which was called Soul Survivor. It was called Soul Survivors, and it was with Wes Bentley, who had just come off of American Beauty, the big Oscar-nominated Kevin Spacey movie, and it was Casey Affleck and Luke Wilson, and everyone was like, oh my God, thank God you got cast in that role. Everyone, like agents and managers and whoever, because Bring It On is just like such a little like bad indie, and this is going to redeem you. And so I did bring it on, and nobody cared. And then I did this movie, Soul Survivors, and it had a much bigger budget and all this excitement around it. And Soul Survivors was such a flop, and Bring It On was this huge hit. So you don't really know how it's going to turn out, but I don't really have favorites. I feel like everything that I've done is sort of, like I was saying, art imitates life, life imitates art. Everything was sort of a reflection of where I was at that time in my life.
And finally, to wrap things up, we have Eliza discussing her role as a producer on a biopic about Robert Mapplethorpe and as a director on the Dear Albania documentary. 9
years we've been trying to make this Robert Mapplethorpe biopic. Yeah, producing is hard. There are just so many, and I mean, it's not that Mapplethorpe was the easiest project to go after. I mean, it's based on a real, iconic photographer. There are so many, and he's dead now, and he has an estate in New York. But we thought when we first stumbled upon the Robert Mapplethorpe biopic, like, this will be just such a great thing. We have this amazing 2-time Grand Jury Sundance Prize winning writer-director. We thought it was going to be, we'd have the movie greenlit. We did. We had James Franco attached at one time to play Mapplethorpe, but we've had more legal issues. Patti Smith has not wanted us to make the film because she she's shown in the film as a part of Robert's life, and she didn't want to be. And so we've had legal issues there. It's a process, and it costs money. And every time we've had a legal thing, we've needed a lawyer. And unless you have a studio behind you financing you, I have been sort of funding that project all along. And for better or for worse, there have been times where I've gone, oh my God, now I understand why people say never use your own money. And there have been other times where I feel like if and when this project gets made, it's going to be really friggin' rewarding. And it's an investment, but it's a crapshoot in many ways. On the flip side, my brother and I decided we wanted to make a film about Albania. Our father his parents were from Albania. Nobody really knows a lot about Albania except that, that it was in the movie Wag the Dog, where they could start a war where no one would know where it was. And also, Jim Belushi and Mother Teresa are from Albania. How many people knew that? Not many, right? So that's what we're telling in the movie. And we wanted to explore this little country right off the back boot of Italy where my grandparents were from, and we felt like we could do that. So it has taken us about 4 years because we shot the film. We went to 15 different cities around Albania over like 15 days. It was a total, run and gun shoot. We had some money from a friend that was all privately financed from again, myself. I know, you're seeing a theme. I'm not that smart. But we had a dream to make this movie, and we finished it, and then the government changed in Albania. So the previous prime minister and his entire party they had never given us money or supported us officially, but when we were there in country, they provided, some things for us. And right when we finished the movie, we were ready to release it on PBS. The government changed in this big dramatic election, and everyone said, these guys are arch enemies, and you have to get him and any signs of his kind of leadership out of your movie to get any support from the new person. And so also with Dear Albania, we did crowdfunding and the Kickstarter I think we did Kickstarter for Dear Albania, where I go on my social media of like 1.5 million people, and I basically, berate them every day and ask them to donate money to help me make my passion project. And we raised a ton of money, and then you give them these sort of reward options after of like, we're going to send you all copies of the movie. Seems like a really easy thing. But when the movie has taken 4 years and we have to recut it, and we've had no money so many times, and we've had to literally get like $5,000 from an Albanian pizza family in New York City in order to like get the sound edit for our movie, it's a maddening process. But lo and behold, we have just finished it again, and we signed a contract last week with PBS and their big American public television network, and they are in for national distribution, international distribution, and in-flight opportunities where you get documentaries on the plane. And so we are like doing happy dances every day, because you have this thing and you feel like you're so passionate, it's driving you every day, you know that there's something there, but it can be a really long, crazy process. And it doesn't always end that way. I mean, if we hadn't sort of found our home there, it might have been a super bummer that we did all this work and it didn't come. But you've got to be able to, like, even on the worst days when it seems like the project's dead and, you know, like, the clouds will like peek open and some little glimmer of hope will come out and shine down and you just grab it and run. And that's my experience with independent filmmaking.
All right, so that's about it. That's great stuff. Great stuff. She's an awesome actress. Very good information she gives out about her projects. So.
Yeah, she gave a great series of responses and gave a lot of really in-depth information. I really enjoyed the bit about her saying that Dollhouse had its second season saved because that was the first year they started counting DVR views.
Yeah, some great information we didn't know about before, and, you know, great speaker, great person in general. So, unfortunately, we're out of time, so that's going to do it for today on Nerd Spastics.
Thanks for joining us, and if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on iTunes, give us a like on Facebook, and if you want, you can email us at nerdspastics@gmail.com.
All right, and as always, see you next week.
Take care.
I don't want to go.